Yes, yes, team. A huge welcome to the Total Mental Performance podcast. Today, I'm really excited because we've got one of my private clients. So, for those that have been listening for a while, you know I have my Total Mental Performance company, which works mainly with fitness entrepreneurs, business owners, and coaches that are looking to achieve three things: minimizing overwhelm, mastering their emotions, and getting more shit done. But outside of that, I coach private clients, and some of these private clients are technology CEOs. Some of them are professional athletes. Some of them are in the entertainment business. And today I've got one of those special guests, and we have Luke Menzies. He's a WWE superstar, also known as Ridge Holland, and we're gonna have a really interesting conversation today. So Luke, mate, thank you so much for jumping on the podcast, and welcome to the Total Mental Performance Pod.
No, thank you, mate. It's a pleasure to be here, especially after all the help you've given me. I'm looking forward to this chat.
Yeah. So why don't you share what it is that you do? There'll be a lot of people that follow you that'll be going, oh yeah, of course I know. I guess you're known as the Ridge in the WWE world.
Mhm.
Um, but
Yeah,
yeah, why don't you give some context? This is who I am and this is what I do.
yeah. So initially, I've always been an athlete. I played 10, 12 years professional rugby league back in England, and then got let go from a club and made the jump over to sports entertainment or professional wrestling, as we call it. I've been doing that for around 6 years now. So that's a bit of a. It's kind of like. It's a weird kind of transition, right? I don't think it's been done that often. Um, but yeah, I've just it kind of going from one spot to especially this different arena in professional wrestling. It rugby didn't really prepare me for the mental side and the logistical nightmare and the uh, the deep waters that you might get into going into a different vocation. But this is why we got in touch with yourself and could help us. So yeah.
How how did you actually get into the WWE? It's something I've never asked you. Obviously, when we're on sessions, we're working. But how do you do that? How do you go from I'm a professional rugby player to yeah now I'm a WWE wrestler?
Yeah, well, I've always been a fan. I know a mutual friend of ours, Keegan, he was my best friend. We were huge wrestling fans growing up. And it just happened that I didn't really know how to get into wrestling at a young age. In England, it's not something you really do. Coming from a small northern town, you play sports, you're a policeman, a bricklayer, you have a trade. But what happened was I was playing for a rugby club at the time. I was newly married. I went on honeymoon, and I got let go while I was on honeymoon.
Oh,
And that night I was scrolling Twitter or X, and I saw a tweet from a really respected English wrestler called William Regal, and he was championing the services of the guy that coached him, a guy called Marty Jones. So I thought, you know what, I'm just going to give it a go. So I shot Marty an email from Cancun. I was laid in bed. Within 5 minutes, emailed me straight back. And then 2 days later, flew home, first wrestling practice. And it wasn't glamorous. It's a ring with one light bulb above it in a little, in a little kind of storage space, as it were. And then trained for 6 months. He put a word in. I ended up getting a WWE tryout. And then they signed me. But then I had to wait a year because my visa got denied. So
oh,
then I was left. So I'd given up rugby. Um, But I'd sold my house thinking I was going to go over, so that I'd left. So basically, me and my wife, who was pregnant at the time, we were left homeless. We had to move into with my granddad and care for him until we could take the right steps and do all the red tape stuff. So the visa got got approved, and then you report to a place called the Performance Center, which is just like the WWE's training facility, and they show you everything that you need to be a professional wrestler. It's all under one roof there, and you learn the ropes there.
wow, what a beautiful story, and you know the phrase "you miss every shot you don't take." Like it's so true. Like one of the most underestimated word. I think it's often misunderstood in all fields, whether that's professional sports, entertainment, business, is the word hustle.
Mhm.
It's asking, asking for stuff. Hey, can I try out to do this wrestling thing you're talking about? And then you took a chance and you knocked on the door, and then that door opened. Next thing you know, you're underneath the light bulb, and he's like, "Ah, let's throw you into the WWE tryouts." You went, "All right, let's see." You took another chance, and you hustled, and you got on, and then you got deterred potentially, but you still stuck it, and then you made that dream happen. So, yeah, there's a you can see you took risks and you hustled to make it happen. And anyone that's listening that feels like they don't want to get rejected or they're afraid that people won't reply, well, you know, you've done it and you ended up in the WWE. You just don't know what
Mhm.
doors will open. You have to ask, and that's it.
Yeah, for sure. And even if it's not asking verbally, it's asking through action. You know, you just sometimes there comes a point in your life where you need to take a leap of faith and you need to throw fear out the window and just go for it. And I did that. And don't get me wrong, I've got amazing support behind me, my wife, and you know, especially my wife, because a lot of my family members weren't happy that I was stepping away from rugby and going into this unknown world. Even friends and stuff, I got laughed at, I got ridiculed. Why do you want to do that? Why do you want to do this? You're throwing it all away. I'm like, listen, now those same people, they're asking me for tickets and they're
Mm,
wanting to come over and stay with me. And so I'm not using that to throw it in the face, but I'm just, you know, sometimes you have to do things that people don't understand, you know, to better yourself. Because people aren't going to understand. If you want to be successful, there's a lot of people that won't understand your drive, won't understand your passion, won't understand your ambitions. And it's in it, being able to look through that and trust in yourself and just do.
I think there's a mentality and culture thing in that as well, because a lot of people listening to this are building their own dreams and their own businesses and growing, but they don't realize that not everyone's going to get it, and people will often discourage you not because they don't want you to win, but they actually care about you. Are you sure you want to do that? Like that's dangerous, and often we can only interpret that as bad. But sometimes it's actually their best interest. And there are some people that will take the piss, and the Brits love to take the piss out of each other and wind you
Always.
up. But one thing I've noticed differently about Americans and Brits is their relationship with going after your ambitions and your dreams, and their relationship with failure. Like in America, there was one American I coached, and he proudly told me, "Oh, I've been bankrupt 3 times, and I've come back and I've won every single time." Whereas in the UK, if you was to say you've gone bankrupt, like you go, "Why are you sharing that with? Why are you telling me about that?" There's a real shame in failure. There's a real like I don't know, a ridicule of people going after big dreams. And in America, it's different. In America, it's like, go make it happen and give it a
Hmm.
try. And you did that. You did that. So from the outsiders looking in, they might say, oh, he's got it all figured out and he's sussed it and he's taken the leap and he's living his dream. Um, could Luke possibly struggle with? What could he possibly find hard? What could you share on that side of things?
Oh, well, um, I've always, from a young age, been very critical of myself and put a lot of pressure on myself. And I've had a lot of pressure put on myself from family members and things to do well. And so it's the burden. Initially, it was the burden of I've taken this big chance. I have to make it work. You know, I've got a family, I've got a wife, and I moved her out here. You know, she trusted me. It wasn't failure to me. It wasn't an option because I'd moved so many people that were involved with me. You know, to come along for this ride. So I took that burden on, and that's where it kind of started. That's where the kind of like lapses in mindset, if we might be able to say it, started. You know, and just the sheer pressure of providing, making sure my wife was okay. She was away from her friends, from her family, um, and trying to fix everything, just trying to make everything okay, and that burnt me out mentally. You know, I was trying to work so hard to climb up the ladder in this new profession that maybe I was neglecting the things at home, but I was still trying to make home, you know, kind of like the sanctuary that it should be. Um, but I didn't have balance. I just did not have balance. It was like work, 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 work. Need to make it work. Need to make it work. Need to make it work. But I was neglecting the foundation. You know.
Yeah, and I think in any new pursuit there is an element of sacrifice, which is why you're still there, right? There's got to be an element of wow, I've got to make sacrifice, and I've got to push, and I've got to push, I've got to push, I've got to push, and then there comes a point once you're established, it's oh, hang on a minute, is that really helpful? Um, for those that are listening, I'm aware that there'll be some people coming over from your world to listen to this podcast, and they might not know what mental performance coaching is, or you know, okay, well, why would the Ridge do that? Why would he go and see a mental performance coach? Um, I'd love you to share a little bit about okay, yeah, this is what was coming up, and this is why I thought, yeah, I'm gonna start working on this.
Yeah, it was. It really comes from like the performance side of things, and wanting to make stuff click. I feel like I was being held back a little bit, and really kind of getting in my own way. I would let every little thing get to me and take every little thing personally, and not know how to deal with these negative thoughts that I'd had, or feeling not worthy, because that was one of the things that would hold me back. I would self-sabotage. I would second guess myself,
Mm,
and that would stem from earlier situations in childhood and through rugby and things like that. But it's basically just you've got lofty ambitions, and sometimes you don't know where to focus your efforts, and who to talk to, what to do. You can confide in the wrong people. It's a minefield. It's a minefield. So for me, coming to Kieran was a way, okay, how can I get my house in order mentally, and use every situation to my advantage. Interpret. How can I interpret things differently? How can I interpret my thoughts differently? How can I use those thoughts? Realize that they are just thoughts, and the fleeting, they come and they go. You just got to stay focused and have that self confidence that I'm going to go out there and do my best. I'm going to prepare and do my best, and if it doesn't work out, we'll go again. You
mm,
know, and I was a very much a do or die person. Like, I need to make this work. If I don't, it's the end of the world. If this screws up, it's the end of the world. I'm going to get fired. People are going to think I'm not good. It's just all these thoughts that come in, and they're a detriment to your actual performance. So before I would go out through the curtain, I would have these thoughts, and it would impact my performance. Whereas now, it's like, I trust myself. If it goes, if it's a successful outing, I've put the preparation to be there. And if it doesn't, I've still put the preparation in there, but I'm mature enough mentally now to think, okay, well, let's roll around next time. Let's learn. Let's move on, and let's make sure next time we knock it out of the park.
yeah, you've probably seen the big smile on my face because when a client says to me, yeah, they're just thoughts. Thinking is just thinking. They're just thoughts. That's how I know that some serious shifts have been made, because often we take our thinking so seriously. Often we take our feelings so seriously, and we start thinking, oh my God, like, what's going on? Like, what does this mean about me? And you start catastrophizing. Oh, that must mean this and this and this and this and this. And the ability to become the observer and let thoughts and emotions come in and recognize them for what they are. Just thought. It's just feeling. You don't have to take them seriously, and then enabling yourself to perform regardless of how you think and regardless of how you feel. That's where the magic happens. That's where you really start to make huge shifts, and your perception of yourself, your perception of your performance and what it is that you need to do, so you become more relaxed. Now, you don't want to become too relaxed, because if you go too relaxed, you're just not going to get out of bed in the morning. But at the same time, if you become too tense, you really hinder your performance. So there's a real balance of tension, positive, balanced, relaxed tension. And you're reaching that place where you understand where that is. And then when all of those superfluous thoughts start to come in, you can go, well, hang on a minute, that's not serving me. And you start to let that go, and you start to get back in that positive tension, and it's getting in there. And that's really where you start to talk about flow state. It's the ability to really just start performing without having to think. And that's really what I've noticed with you is your ability to just take a moment, breathe, observe, make a decision, and then go. Versus before, where you was getting hijacked by all those feelings. It's big. It's really big. What do you think the biggest shifts for you have been as you've got to this place?
Um, just how I approach things. So I'll just say, for instance, if I've got a match or I'm talking on a microphone and I get given the task what I'm asked to do, it's like, okay, let's focus just on this and how do we make this the best thing, and not letting those, because we all get them, you'll be reading something and you'll say something or do something and then you have a negative thought and they'll say, maybe that won't work.
Mhm.
Little arrow there, and it's been able to go, trust in yourself and you'll do it. And we spoke before, Kieran, that it's freedom. You know, you almost feel free. You know, just to be you, and to trust in yourself and know that you can be malleable. Especially in what I do, you've got to be malleable. You've got to be able to turn on a dime. You've got to be able to switch, pivot, and but just to be able to be malleable and still stay confident and still stay on track and be free to do that
Mhm.
without those thoughts. That's the bit that one of the biggest things really that we've worked on for
Yeah,
sure.
freedom. I love that word. And our number one company value at TMP is be water. It
Mm,
was Bruce Lee that said, if you put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. If you put water into a teacup, it becomes the teacup. Water can flow or it can crash. Be water, my friend. And that's really what you're describing there is your ability to adapt. Confidence isn't the absence of fear. That's just being foolhardy. Confidence is the ability to back yourself even in the face of adversity. It's the ability to back yourself in the face of change. It's the ability to not necessarily know what the future holds, what the next step is, but backing and believing in yourself that you can handle it. And that's really when I look at you, you've gone from somebody that spent a lot of time in his head thinking about the future and what if this happens and this happens and this happens, and you've just gone, well, I'll handle it. And the thoughts are coming in, and you're going, well, I'll handle it. That's fine. That's okay. And what you don't realize is you save so much energy because you're not fighting thought with thought. You're not attacking yourself for having these thoughts. You're not beating yourself up anymore. You're letting them in. You're observing them. You're going, okay, thanks for coming to visit. I've got work to do. And you're letting them go. And
mm,
that's where we talk about energy management. Often people think, yes, your sleep, your training, your nutrition, so important. Like you've got to have the physiological car and the engine to run that. But past that, because
mm,
everybody's got their training and nutrition in your game nailed, it's the mental game of, how do I deal with setbacks?
mm,
Things are going really well. How do I just keep flowing? How do I keep moving? How do I deal with the unknown? How do I deal with, oh, I don't know what this means or that, or there's been a change, and how you adapt to that. So that freedom piece, that water piece is so important. And seeing you adapt and pivot and move and just the way in which you're able to dance with things now, it's like night and day. What would you say about perhaps performance anxiety? Like that was a thing that was tripping you up a little
mm.
bit. Where did that come from? Where was that born?
Um, I think that came from a lot of pressure from my father. Um, Kind of when I was playing rugby, you know, it was always very rarely a pat on the back. It was almost, you know, there was just there wasn't a lot of like, oh, you did well today. So it was like, oh well, am I not good enough? Like, what am I doing? So I would obviously then you start looking within and you start thinking, what do I need to do? And all I want is that a bit of validation, and then the anxiety comes, you know, and it compounds. Anxiety compounds. And especially being a kid, 12, 13, 14, 15 years old, you don't know how to recognize what's going on up
Mhm.
here and emotionally thoughts and stuff. So it all compounds, and you get to a point where I was, where it runs into this new career and it runs into personal life. It runs into every situation that you encounter. So it's been able to kind of like unpick and unravel all of that past, I don't want to use trauma, but like all those past situations, all those past thoughts and feelings, unpick it, get to the root cause, and understand that the anxiety really, it's how we react to it. It's how we react to these thoughts, you know. And I don't know what that filter is there, but it's how we react to, you know, to those thoughts and how those thoughts make us feel. And the big thing that I got from you, I think a big kind of like breakthrough moment was when we spoke about our kingship as well, you know. That was a big thing, and like I almost called it, what do we call it? Like Google Earth, zoom
Yes.
out, you know. So you're in this situation, take yourself out and have a look, and you can kind of see the whole situation as a whole. You can see everyone that's involved, and a big thing from that was if I'm dealing with a certain person, management or whatever, or another performer, put yourself in their shoes, you know, and what are they feeling, you know, why are they acting a certain way? Why are they saying this? And if you do that, you're able to be a bit more diplomatic in getting what you want through those conversations, you know, and that really helps. You know, those archetypes that we spoke about. It's like I say, it's been able to zoom out and just take a breath and recognize what's going on around you, and then again, be like water, adapt accordingly.
So there's so much valuable things in there. Essentially, when we're talking about childhood, the metaphor I like to talk about is I like to use phones. So, you know, when you're on your phone and you can see everything, you can touch everything, that's the user interface. But underneath the user interface are lines of code. And those lines of code are written in childhood. So the user interface of life is everything you can see, touch, hear, feel, your conscious thoughts, thoughts that you're aware of. And then underneath all of that are lines of code. And those lines of code are born in childhood. And that's where you learn all these beliefs about the world. I am good, I'm not good. And children think in black or white. So sometimes in our adult lives, this is where I use my experience as a cognitive hypnotherapist to go back into childhood with the context of how is this stopping Luke from performing, and how is this getting in the way, and where is the root cause of that? So the performance coach inside me is seeing, okay, this emotion or this belief is stopping him from performing. Cool. Then I put my therapist hat on. I say, right, you need to shift that, Mr. Therapist. Go into the underlying emotion and the root cause, the experiences as a child, um, and go in there and go, well, what's that about? And when you start to go in there, you start to get an insight as to who you really are and why you think and feel and perform like you are. And it's having that inner child conversation and going, well, hang on a minute, that belief that you have just isn't true anymore. That's just not reality. And it's a real honor in my work. And I love the performance stuff and seeing people really fly, but also the deeper inner work, making those internal shifts where reality is never the same again. That's deeply fulfilling and meaningful. So when you go in there and you make those shifts, your whole reality changes because you're not operating on that same line of code anymore. We've updated the bug in the system, so to speak. So that's when Luke's talking about it, you're listening. What does he mean going back to the root cause in childhood? It's going into that moment where that belief and that way of behaving was born. The next part about kingship. So everybody's got their own inner king or their own inner queen, and it's understanding that you can't put a deadline on a king, you can't put a deadline on a queen. And we talk about the various archetypes. We've got there's four. So the first one is the warrior, the part of you that's angry, the part of you that wants to go and get shit done. It's the part of you that works hard, but it's also the part that creates conflict and the part that burns out. You've got the magician. It's very creative. It comes up with lots of ideas. It can spot opportunities, but it's also the part that overthinks and gets very anxious and gets very worried. And then you've got the lover. The lover really cares and helps people, but it also people pleases and gives things away, whether that's time, energy, or money that you don't have to give. And then you've got the king or the queen, and they can see what's really going on in the kingdom or the queendom. And they know, actually, I'm getting stuck in my magician. I'm getting more anxious. I need to put my warrior to work and actually just go and get some more shit done. Or actually, my warrior's kicking off right now. I actually need to slow down and try and understand who's in front of me. Why am I angry with them? Let me put myself in their shoes and empathize. And it's taking yourself out of the world is happening to me, and it's getting to a place of I happen to the world. And when you make that shift, that's where life really begins to change. And then the final technique there was about there's a number of different ways you can do it, but it's essentially getting into a helicopter or a Google Maps or whatever it is. And whenever you're stuck in a situation, you can't see the wood through the trees. It's zooming out. When in doubt, zoom out. And it's looking, okay, well, what is the reality of what's going on? And these are all a series of deep inner work that Luke's done to get to that point where those old triggers aren't triggering him like they used to. And if they do show up as thoughts, he's able to let them go. And then highly practical tools, because it's no good, in my view, for performance, just doing deeper inner emotional work. You're going to have practical tools where, oh, I've been caught off guard. How do I handle that? And I call those mental performance playbooks. So we've been building your playbook over the past few months. So now you know, when this happens, respond like this. When this happens, respond like this. And looking at you now, like you just a completely different animal. I mean, you tell me if you was to have a wrestling match with you at the beginning of our coaching process to where you are now, how would that go?
Well, it's funny because I remember we had this little conversation a bit ago. You said if you met him at a pub, you know, who would win in a fight? And I said, you know what? I'd probably just sit him down and buy him a pint, you know, and speak to him and say, you know, what's going on? You know, and I'd impart the knowledge that you've imparted on me, or not the knowledge, but like the techniques and stuff to help him out, as opposed to this, you know. I'd just say, come on, man, let's have a fight, let's talk it out, you know. And then obviously, because I always like to help people and stuff, so I probably do that, just impart some of that knowledge and impart some of those techniques onto the old Luke. And hopefully that he can do that for someone else.
That was the first time I had that come up. Because normally, because I work with a lot of ambitious men, right? And normally the first thing, yeah, I'd knock that guy out, left, right, and center. Yeah, I'd take him out. And Luke was the first person that come in, and he goes, yeah, I'd actually take him for a pint and let him know that it's all right. And I was like, you know what, that is in your fashion, in your style. It's thinking outside the box and going, yeah, you know what, I don't need to fight anymore, which is really, really beautiful. But when we just compare like how you were to how you are now, it's like two completely different men, and it looks like you're just enjoying your work, you're enjoying your wrestling, and you're performing just a hell of a lot more than perhaps what you were before, which is super important.
Yeah, you know, and you spoke about before when those triggers are still there. They come. Do you know what I mean? Like every time I'm at work, the same triggers are the same triggers, but I'm able to deal with them now, and you know, it doesn't bother me. The tasks that are set get completed and they get knocked out of the park. Those triggers don't have that effect. They don't make me shake, you know, waver or anything. It's just I've got the techniques now where I can say, nah, I'm not gonna let you bother me. I know what I have to do. I know we need to get here. So let's get to where we need to get to. Let's do what we need to get done. But within that as well, I'm able to cultivate the talents to or the ability, should I say, to be able to kind of put my creative stamp on things as well, by having those conversations and not shying away from those conversations with people that make the decisions as well, you know. So all in all, it creates an environment where, for instance, like I would always shy away from having those conversations. I would be like, oh no, what if he thinks this of me? What if he thinks that of me? What if he just shuts me down? And then we had a conversation and it was like, if I'm going to die, no one's going to give a fuck about it. Excuse my language. But, like, who's going to care in, 5 months, let alone, 5 years? Who's going to care? So you might as well just have the conversation because it's going to make me feel better, you know? So, really, we get all this self-importance and we get all this anxiety and stuff, but really, and this is quite liberating if you think about it, no one is going to care down the line. No one cares. No one's going to remember, remember when we had that 30-second chat, that 2-minute chat, and you said this. This world moves so fast. No one cares. So you might as well just do it, you know?
The difficult conversations thing, I remember that. It was a really powerful session. I remember. And I remember going, hang on, what's the worst case scenario? Because what happens is sometimes the thought of a difficult conversation is worse than the actual conversation itself. And don't get me wrong, sometimes that's not the case. but often we suffer more in imagination than we do in reality. So being able to have the confidence to have those difficult conversations and handle yourself emotionally in those is really key, because at the other side of a difficult conversation usually is what you want, and you get very clear on your desires. But then also seeking first to understand before being understood. So often we all want to be understood. We all want everyone to know our side of the story or how we see things, and we don't often take time to think about other people and where they're coming from. So sometimes in difficult conversations and conflict, it isn't about, hey, this is what I believe, or you did this. It's, hey, I don't really understand the logic behind this. Can you help me? And everybody wants to help you. And then when you start to listen and actually understand their point of view, and then you can play it back. Okay, so my understanding is you made this decision because of X, Y, and Z. Is that right, or have I missed something? And then if you've listened properly, they'll go, yeah, that's it. But I would add this or this or this, and then you go, oh, okay, I don't see it that way. Can I share what I experienced? And they're going to be someone's going to be much more open. But now you understand each other versus you did this or I think this. And the more that you can do that, the more you can empathize, the more that you can connect. Because humans will try and mind read. They must mean this, or they must mean this, or this, or this. But it's not. A lot of it's not inherently true. It's just made up. Often we attribute malice and bad things to actually carelessness. That person hasn't responded to my text. Like, they must not care about me. Actually, maybe they're just busy and they've just got a lot on. Or that person gave me a funny look. And they give you a funny look, or actually, did they read something on their phone and they've looked up and they've can't. You're the first person they've looked at. So seek first to understand before being understood, instead of trying to mind read everyone. It's like one of the secrets of reality. And then having the courage to hold those conversations and listen and really listen. You just start to, okay, it's not all about me. And that final point about no one cares. I mean, like, how often does anyone think about the Queen? The longest female reigning monarch in the world. She's overseen so much, right? She has impacted loads of people around the world. There's loads of queens on the planet. When you say the Queen, which one do you think about? You think about Queen Elizabeth.
Yes.
And how often do you think about her? She passed away over a year ago now, I think. No one really thinks it. So what makes you think people are going to be thinking about you? What makes you think that people are going to be in your world? Like, it's deluded. It's absolutely deluded. Most people are worried about, their family, their jobs, their work, their kids. They've got so much on. But we often try and make the whole world about us. And the quicker that we can learn to understand others and also understand our general insignificance in the world, and that's not necessary to play down, who we are, but it's also just to help us achieve a little bit of existential freedom. I'm just a speck of dust. No one's going to remember this. So it takes the pressure off. And then actually you realize you've got a lot less to lose than you think.
And it takes the anxiety out. It takes the anxiety out of the situation. It's like, well, and it also, it motivates you as well, because it's like, well, what do we have to lose? We all get bogged down in what ifs, or what if this doesn't. It's all the what ifs are always from a negative point of view, right? So it's all what if. Everyone always thinks, oh, what if negative, negative, negative. But what if it goes well? It goes well. It goes well. Everyone always goes on the negative end of the spectrum. But when you take ourselves out, that self-importance out of ourselves, it enables you to hang on a minute. I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it the right way, but I'm just going to do it, and come what may, whatever happens, and whatever happens, we've got the tools to deal with whatever comes. And again, that's another liberating, freedom giving thought as well. It's like, well, yeah, it might happen. What if I get fired? And you move on. You wake up the next day, and it's just
the what ifs.
Yeah.
The what ifs. That's the tool that we've worked on. So if you're worrying about the future, you're gonna have loads of what ifs running around your head. I actually learned this technique from a guy called Sam. and he was my first ever mental performance coach, less on the emotional side, but more on just um, sporting techniques. And I was going to a tournament in Sweden, and I was really nervous. And he was a tennis coach; he wasn't even a boxing mental performance coach. He was all about tennis. But believe it or not, boxing and tennis actually have a lot of similarities because it's you versus you, but it's also you versus an opponent. And he got me to write these down. And I was like, what if I forget my boxing boots? What if I miss the weight? What if? And all these what ifs that run around your head. Once I broke them all down, I started to realize actually I can handle it. Like when you write down, well, what if this happens? I'll do this. And then as time's gone on, that's where we've added that extra question. Okay, what if X happens? So what if you lose your job? What if you break your arm? What if whatever? Well, here's what I'll do. And then the next question after that I've added that adds a lot of confidence is okay, can you handle it? And if the answer is pretty much every time yes, then you've taken a lot of the suffering out because we suffer more in imagination than we do in reality, and all of that superfluous extra thinking. Just 10 minutes in your journal can just take out so much, so much. So yeah, that what ifs point is a really really good one.
It is, and I think that another thing that helps me as well. I've never been a big journaler. Never really been one for writing in a journal. But what I do, I like to go out and like get my fasted cardio in the morning. I just like to walk, and that's where I can kind of do my mental kind of checklist then and stuff, and that's my journaling for the day. Then I can, okay, I'm feeling a bit meh today. Why am I feeling that way? What's coming up? What happened yesterday? You know, that's my that's my time. So I think it's a lot of it is like the TMP thing is finding what works for you as well.
Mm.
Everyone's different, as we all know. So like I've learned that, okay, I'll just go out for a 40-minute walk, 45-minute walk, and not only am I ticking the box of getting my fasted cardio in, but I'm also kind of like setting myself up mentally for the day as well. So it's finding those little things that you can do in your situations. Because like I say, I'm married, I've got 3 kids, I'm busy, I've got my my conditioning to worry about, I've got my work to worry about, busy.
Mm.
So being able to find whatever kind of crack or break in that lifestyle that you can kind of reassess I think that's imperative as well, and that's a massive thing that we need to be able to do.
Well, you mentioned something in there that's really important about how I coach and how I mentor, which is I have a belief that every single human being has a uniqueness about them. What a lot of coaches and mentors do is they try and imprint their model of the world of how things should be done. So everyone should journal, or everyone should do ice baths, or everyone should do trauma work, or everyone and they push and they push and they push. I don't believe that to be true. I believe that every single individual, every single ambitious mind has its own unique psychological profile, and you have to, as a coach, as a mentor, and as a leader, you have to adapt to who's in front of you because performance isn't necessarily telling someone what to do. It's how do you get the best out of someone with what they have. And the more that you can listen to the individual and work in their model of the world and on how they process things, faster they're going to listen and take things on board. So, for some people, you can adjust and go, yeah, that's not for me, but I do it this way. And it's encouraging that, not why haven't you done this? Well, it didn't work, clearly. Why, whatever reason, either you didn't communicate it properly or they tried it and it just weren't for them. And instead of being very rigid, again, it's being water and going, okay, well, what does the individual need to get that next level of performance? And the more I believe you work on an individual level, the faster, the more clear, and the more powerful results that you can get. Because anyone can just spout off, here's a load of techniques you can try. But actually listening and going, you know what, this is how this guy thinks, this is how he feels, this is how he sees the world, communicating in that way and using the various different tools and techniques required in there, it's very special. And even when you're working with mentors, it's understanding, okay, well, I like to use the metaphor of walking into a dojo, right? You walk into a dojo and there's a load of weapons in front of you. And you got some ninja throwing stars, or you got a nunchuck, or you got a baseball bat, you got a sword, or you got a bow and arrow. And there's all these different masters of all these different weapons, and someone will give you some ninja throwing stars, and you'll use them, and you'll go, "Nah, that's not for me." And someone will give you a baseball bat, and you go, "Yeah, I like the baseball bat. That feels good." And all you got to do is file the stuff that works for you. You put it in the back of your mind, and you pull that out when you need it, and the other stuff, it's passing it away. So when you can really have, and when you've I'm quite lucky because I filter out clients very, very early about being coachable. When you can attract those clients, that's how the work really starts to happen. And I think it's serving, not pleasing. In fact, can you remember when we first got in touch? Do you remember what happened? It just come to my mind.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. So, so we first go, and I was like, "You bastard!" Like, because what happened was, we set up a time, I think, and then I was kind of like dragging my feet a little bit, and you sent me a text, and you knowing me now about how I work and what I do, that would have really struck a chord, like kind
Yeah.
of struck a chord with me. Then you went, "Give me a chat when you're ready to do the work," and I was like, "Oh, okay, wow," and that kind of like. I wouldn't say it was an insult or whatever, but it kind of like went, well, this guy, that you, um, there's no bullshit. You talk to me when you're ready. I'm not, I'm not wasting my time on you if you're not willing to put the time in. And all my respect there went up, and I was like, okay, I need to take this a lot more seriously, because he is, because you are, and that really thought, hang on, okay, this guy wants to do stuff. He's he's of the mindset that he's only going to work with people who want to put the work in, and that was like, okay, well, that really set me going. I was like, right, I need to do it, you know.
Mm. I remember. So I think we arranged to talk. We booked in, and you was It took a little bit of time to get booked in, and then you was
Mhm,
traveling. You missed the first one. I think the second one we booked in, something happened. You travel and you couldn't make it.
mhm,
Oh mate, I'm so sorry. And I said, look, I think it's something along the lines of, Luke, don't stress, mate. From what I can see, you're not ready to do the work, so get in touch when you are. And
yeah,
and this is about serving, not pleasing. And there's two parts, right? So there's a phrase in boxing I love, which is it the jockey or is it the horse? So sometimes you'll have a great coach, you'll have a really shit coach, but you've got an amazing horse, and that's just a really shit jockey, and you've got an amazing horse, and that's always going to win races.
mm,
And then on the flip side, sometimes you've got an incredible jockey, but they're only as good as the horses that they can work with. I believe it's both. I believe
mhm,
great jockeys attract great horses, and great horses attract great jockeys. And I could sense, the recommendation from Keegan. Keegan was like, "I want you to work with Luke. I think you'll really help him." I was like, "Okay, it's a strong recommendation. I've done a lot of work with Keegan, and I really trust him. So okay." And then when I saw that, I was like, "He's not ready." So if I was trying to please, I'd say, "Oh, it's okay, mate.
mhm,
Let's reschedule another time." That doesn't serve you. It doesn't.
mhm,
So that's why I said, "Look, I'm not sure if you're ready to do this yet. That's okay. Get in touch when you are." And then I don't even think you replied. I'm not sure if you did. And a few weeks went by, and then you went, "Right, let's go. I'm in.
yeah,
Can we book in again?" And then the
mhm,
relationship from there,
mhm,
it's one of equity.
mhm,
It's not you're kissing my ass because I'm in control or anything, and I'm not kissing
mhm,
your ass. It's we both work together to really go and make
mhm,
that happen. And a lot of people can either and I don't do this with my clients. Some coaches will create a you listen to me and I'm in charge and I'm the boss. And on the flip side,
mhm,
there are some coaches that pedestal their clients and they go, oh yeah, well, like, oh, it's the ridge. Like I gotta really make sure like this, like
mhm,
I've really got to do this, and
mhm,
it just doesn't work. But when you've got
mhm,
equity and you're working on it, I'm okay, you're okay, and we can do that. Well, then you can really get to the root cause of what's truly going on because there's enough trust in the bank. Because oh, okay, this guy's not going to tell me what I want to hear, and I also know, all right, this guy's in. Because if it's
mhm,
not a
mhm,
yes, it's a no. And
yeah,
we had that great first call, and then we
hmm
clicked, and then off we went. And it's having, and that's a difficult conversation to have, but
Yeah.
you did it, and you connect, and from there, that's where you can really start to make those shifts. So that came to mind as we was talking about. Hang on, difficult conversations. How do we do that? What's going on, and communication. So I needed to understand your world. You also need to understand my
hmm
world,
Of
and
course,
through
yeah.
those connections, it's like okay, that's really what's going on here. So
And through those difficult conversations, like I remember the first like 4 or 5 sessions were heavy,
mm,
right? Heavy.
yeah,
But as heavy as they were, I'd be like looking forward to the next one. I would be kind of like excited because we were always kind of making ground with each call, with each session. I would always take something or multiple things from it, and so I'm a big thing for me is like if I feel like I've said this to you, if I don't feel like I'm moving forward, I feel like I'm withering away,
mm,
and with this, it was like every week it was progress, progress, progress. And so I get more involved because I see that it's working. I can see myself and my outlook and everything. So I think stemming from those difficult conversations, um, it kind of like fertilizes the soil for progress, and sometimes you have to have those difficult conversations to break ground, and that's what happened. And the same goes for whether it's with you, whether it's with family, friends, or whether it's in the workplace. You're gonna have to have those difficult conversations, but we have the tools now to meander those waters whenever those difficult conversations come up and progress from those difficult conversations.
yeah. And you have to have the confidence to have them, because often everything you want is on the other side of a difficult conversation. It's on the other side of an ask. You've just got to
Mm,
ask, and if you don't ask, you don't get. And when you assume that people are thinking a certain way, or they believe a certain thing, or whatever, then you're always going to get stuck, because it's not reality until you've actually had that conversation and you've figured that out. So yeah, and then you go through the process, and well, there's something called an emotional bank account. So an emotional bank account is every time you and I speak, we're making little deposits, providing that we're being positive and we're learning and we're growing and we're moving things through. We make more deposits. But things like being rude, or not connecting, or taking swipes at each other, or whatever, those are little withdrawals. So
mm,
over time, you make enough deposits. Well, then guess what? You feel safe. So then you can go deeper and deeper and deeper. Whereas if you're always making withdrawals, and this is for any relationship, um, you don't want to go overdrawn, because then that's when trust is broken. And then the next thing you know, it's
mm,
really hard to get out of that. So
yeah.
the more we go down the process, the more difficult conversations you have with people, the more people actually respect you. The more people
Mm,
will actually, oh, that was a bit uncomfortable, but I guess that was pretty necessary.
mm,
That text I sent to you, look, I don't think you're ready. When you're ready, drop me a line. That was a difficult conversation, but it had to happen, because
mm,
otherwise you'd either would have gone into the process kind of not really like respecting the process, perhaps not respecting me, or respecting what it is that you were there to do. And then
mm,
on the flip side, from my side, there isn't that mutual understanding or that respect. It's like, hang on, he's messing about. Does he want to do it? Does he not? So you have to have the courage to go, well, look, it is what it is. Like, we're going to do this or not.
yeah.
And when you can do that, you just become so much more clear, more quickly, and you can get that a hell of a lot more done. What would you
Mm.
say to anyone that's listening to this and going, oh, okay, I've never considered men's performance, or working with Kieran and his team, or whatever, having explored this stuff, and you've now
Mhm.
graduated out of the evolution program, and we're now going on to momentum, which is all about calibration and keeping this momentum going. What would you say
Mhm.
for your experiences to people that are like, oh, I might reach out?
Just do it. Dive in, both feet. Honestly, like you won't regret it, because it's not it's for yourself, and it's mastering yourself, and with that, people around you benefit as well. Like, I'm a big believer in, obviously, like, reciprocating, or passing on, and making other people, whatever I learn, I like to make other people benefit from that and stuff. And this is a perfect opportunity to do that, because you master yourself. You can be the best version of yourself for, not for everyone else, but they automatically get a kind of like a trickle down effect of what you guys did for me at TMP, because I'm able to conversate better, I'm able to be there better, I'm able to listen better, I'm able to give advice better. I don't get triggered if someone's asking me for advice from a point where, about something that I might not like. I can step back and listen. So if it's not for you, like, for yourself as well, just jump in. Honestly, like, if you feel that you need to go to the next step, or you feel like something's holding you back, or you're holding yourself back and you're self-sabotaging, or you just don't feel sharp, just jump in. You're not gonna regret it. I mean, I can't say enough good things about it. I've spoke to many people that are in the business that I'm in, close friends as well. I've got quite a tight circle, and each person knows about the experience that I've had with TMP and with you, Kieran, and I've waxed lyrical about the process that we've been through, and people have taken it on board, and I've given your email to people and stuff. And so I wouldn't do that if I didn't think that this is hugely beneficial to anybody. And I think I said on a thing where, if I had enough money,
Yeah,
if
you
I had
did.
enough money, if I had enough money in the bank account to pay for everyone that I cared about, or everyone that was struggling to go through this, I would pay it, over and over, because I think it's that valuable. And I'm not blowing smoke. It's just the fact that everyone deserves to be the best version of themselves. I hate for someone to get to a point in their life and think, oh, what if I did this differently? Or what if I did this? And I have that type of regret. So I think that this is a perfect tool to not ever to have that situation crop up in someone's life.
Thank you for sharing that, mate. And that's why I do what I do. It's like our whole reality comes through the mind. Thus, learning how to navigate the mind, understand it, and leverage it is one of the most powerful tools. And that, for me, is psychological freedom. And that's what I want to bring to the world. And you're right, the trickle down effect. So that's why I like working with people in roles that impact a lot of people. You know, not just your family as a leader, but even, you're in the entertainment business. People want to be entertained. They want to have an escape into a different world from the tough reality that they're experiencing. For my business owner clients, we impact their team. So we impact the leader, that impacts their team. So their employees feel a hell of a lot better, which then means their services and what they deliver to the world is a lot more positive. For the coaches that work with us, it's the same thing. It's, that coach gets better. They're able to then pass on their knowledge and their wisdom down to their clients, and the ripple effect of that, just through starting through the mind, is why we do what we do. So yeah, it's an honor, mate, and everything we've been working on. Every time we jump on a call, you're just making leaps and leaps and leaps and leaps and leaps. Or whenever you raise your hand and you're like, "Hey, I've got this going on. Like, what do you think?" Like the way you raise your hand now and the questions you're asking are at such a higher level than what you were asking at the beginning, because of that maturity process. It's phenomenal, and that's really my mission, is just to bring this psychological freedom to ambitious minds around the world. However we do that, um, whether that's through one-to-one coaching and my one-to-one coaching team, whether that's through groups. I'm writing a book called the Mental Performance Playbook, so I'm looking forward to getting that out there. I'll send you a pre-transcript
Please
once
do.
it's out, if you want to have a look around. Um, and yeah, and that's really just the aim of the game. It's having that infinite mission of going, all right, let's bring it on. That's why I do the podcast, to help people realize they're not alone. It's why I do the work that I do. Um, and once you get past the deeper stuff and the emotional stuff, which is actually still quite fun, once you outgrow that, like, it is, how good can life be? How much can I enjoy what I'm doing, and how much flow and enjoyment and fulfillment can I pick up? And that's that's the fun bit. So yeah, it's been great fun. It's been really, really great fun.
It has, and I think that the one thing we always, a lot of people who are successful, they define success in material assets, right? Which, whatever, if that's your bag, that's fine. But it, for me, it's just being able to, like we spoke about joy, being able to enjoy everything. And yeah, you can have money coming in left, right, and centre, but if you're not enjoying yourself and you don't feel true to yourself, then what's the point? You know. So now, even if you're a bin man or whatever, and whatever your job is, do you know what I mean? An unglamorous job that doesn't necessarily pay a lot of money, but if that bin man's gone through this process, you know, and he's happy and he's joyful about what he does and he's able to, you know, make smart decisions and have those conversations, he's going to be happier,
Mm,
regardless of who you are, what you do. It's not success isn't defined by materialistic things. It's almost defined by how much you enjoy what you do, how much you enjoy your life. That's success. You know, like I always said to you that I want to buy the house on a bit of land, have a couple of dogs, you know, and just be secluded and be out of the way. And that's, I'd be like, I can go outside, I can sit in my chair, have my morning coffee, happy, you know. Success is, it's not always material things. And I think that's what people get in, they get caught in that kind of, caught on that roller coaster. I need more, I need more, I need more, I need more. But they're not taking stock of anything. They're not taking stock of what's truly important in their life, you know.
mm.
Because if that money all goes away, what are you left with, you know? So
Stop
this
and
this
smell
is
the
a big,
roses.
it's foundation work. Yeah.
Stop and smell the roses and
So
understanding that there's more to it. So, mate, I've deeply enjoyed this conversation. I know all of our listeners would have enjoyed that too, mate. Um, where can everyone find you? If they want to get more into your world from my audience, and they're like, oh, I really like Luke, or I want to follow his wrestling stuff. Where can they go?
yeah, uh, Twitter or X at Ridge WWE and the same on Instagram at Ridge WWE. Yeah, I'm there. I put all my stuff up on Instagram and Twitter, and see me throw some bodies around, I guess. See what I do at work. Yeah.
Awesome. Final question. Forget us as a company or my TMP company or anything like that, but just what does the phrase total mental performance mean to you?
It's it's being able to be confident and have the freedom, um, creatively or physically, to put the right steps in place to get to wherever you want to get to
Mm,
achieve whatever you want to achieve, and to recognize along that journey that there will be failures, but you divert, you reassess, and you have the tools to make sure that each failure that you have, you've made progress. You know, so you're still moving forward, even though you might fail. You're still moving forward.
mm, I love that. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure, and thank you so much for coming on the pod. Looking forward to our next session, guys. If you like this episode, please like and subscribe. Please share this to your stories. Tag us both in there. We're just trying to take this podcast out to the world to know that you can be a high performer and you can be highly ambitious. Yet, just because you suffer doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. Everyone suffers. It's your ability to handle your suffering and perform anyway, which was really the secret. So, Luke, mate, thank you so much for jumping on, and please share the pod wherever you can,
Thanks,
guys.
thanks, Kieran. Cheers, buddy.